trying a bit of a new setup because my tall tripod is not really working, so we're gonna see just how this setup goes. And if you hear noises outside my room, no you don't. It probably comes as no surprise that the book I'm doing a review of was not on my June TBR. I am such a mood reader. I just decided I wanted fantasy and I wanted something short and like easy to get through. And so I picked up MAGONIA. This book has been on my shelf for so many years and I keep almost getting rid of it and then thinking twice about it and keeping it just because it's really pretty and the synopsis always hooks me and makes me interested. Really quick going over this. Aza, our main character, has some condition that nobody really knows about. It makes it really hard for her to breathe and she's constantly sick and just really struggles to like get air into her lungs. And then one day she sees a ship up in the clouds and learns that there's an entire world above the clouds. So that is the main synopsis, like just very brief to get you into it. As you know, I don't like spoilers. I don't want to spoil anything or give too much away, but that is the synopsis. And it's always been intriguing to me. Like I love fantasy and the idea of there being like an entire world in the sky that we don't really know about is just fascinating. And also it's really pretty. Like what a beautiful cover. And that's part of the reason I hold on to it is because it's pretty, but it also just seems interesting. So I was in the middle of reading my Tom Hanks book and just needed a quick fantasy because that book is kind of wordy and takes a little bit more brain power. It takes me longer to get through, so I just wanted something really quick. And this was perfect because it took me, I think, technically like 3 days of reading. I went through it really quickly. The first day I got 100 pages in and didn't want to stop, but it was like after dinner and I had to go to bed. I was ready to just go to bed, but it hooked me. Okay, but backing up a tiny bit, it didn't hook me immediately. I'm not gonna lie, I almost DNF'd this about 20 pages in. I didn't like the narrative voice at all. I thought that Aza sounded really young. Like I think it's young adult, but it felt more middle grade. And I just was not vibing with the narrative voice and I couldn't imagine reading an entire book with that narrative voice and that like phrasing and that type of prose. I just really was not enjoying it. It was just so very juvenile. And don't get me wrong, I love a good middle grade. Like I love Percy Jackson and I don't think anybody can argue that those books are the best written or have the best prose in them, but there's something about them that just kind of hooks you. And I wasn't feeling that in this book partway through. But I decided to continue on and give it a go, mostly because I just didn't want to give up yet. I wanted to read some fantasy and I didn't want to go back to my Tom Hanks contemporary. I wanted fantasy. And so I figured I would just give this a go. It was easy reading. Like I read 20 pages very quickly and just wasn't into it. And I decided that since it was such easy reading, I would just keep going for a little bit longer, maybe try to get to like page 100 before I, decided to not read it. And by the time I got to page 100, I was hooked. I was in. I was so fully sold on this book. And it's not necessarily that anything super groundbreaking had happened. I just got to where I did really like Aza and I really liked Jason. So I was starting to like feel for the characters and connect with them. And then there's this ambulance scene that just got me so hard. And I don't want to spoil too much, but it was so very immersive. And I just had such empathy for the characters and man, that scene got me. And at that point, that was like right around page 100 and I was like, okay, I am fully invested now. I'm here for it. I'm sold. I can't give up. I gotta see what happens. And so I continued on. I do still have a few complaints. One is the fact that it feels a lot more middle grade than it does young adult. I think that Aza and Jason both feel very young. They're supposed to be, I think, 16, but they feel very much like 12 to 14 most of the time. They just feel very young. To be fair, yes, 16 is young, so I guess that's probably not like a big deal and it's not necessarily, a problem. It's just coming at it from the view of a 25-year-old, they felt so very young. And I mean, that's my bad for just aging out of the age group, I guess, but that was one of my main complaints. There were some like kind of plot holes, like not giving away any spoilers, so I'm not going to give context for this necessarily, but Aza doesn't ask about her father or think to ask about her father until the very, very end of the book. And that was one of my first questions. And it's just wild to me that she wouldn't have thought to ask. And I know that there was a lot going on, so maybe it's just kind of like not the most important thing on her mind, but I don't know. I thought it was something that she probably would have thought about, or even if she didn't ask somebody, she would have had the internal thought, you know, like, I wonder. And she didn't until literally the last chapter. So that felt kind of strange to me. I also think that the pacing was off in the last third of the book. For the first 200 pages, no complaints about the pacing. I thought it was really well done, and I was just in it. It was easy to follow, easy to read, and didn't feel like it was dragging out, but also didn't feel rushed. And then we got to page 200 and got like a second inciting incident, or like a second call to action for Aza, our main character. And I thought that was strange because there's only 100 pages left, and usually that's something that'll happen within the first 100 pages, sometimes within the first 50 pages, is that you get this call to action. And now we're 200 pages in getting another one. And then everything just happened really, really quickly. The journey was just skipped over, basically. We just heard, you know, like, okay, well, we've been traveling, whatever. And anything that she learned, we didn't necessarily, we saw a little bit, but we didn't see very much of her learning things. It was kind of just, well, I've been practicing, and so now I know. And so the last 100 pages just felt really rushed. It wasn't a big enough deal that it killed the story for me, but I would have loved to have sat with the characters a little bit longer. I think it could have been 50 to 100 pages longer, and I think that last third of the book could have been stretched out quite a bit. That's just personal preference and opinion, but that was my other main complaint, was just the pacing was great until it wasn't. So, last third of the book definitely felt rushed, but it still ended well. I still like the ending. And this is a duology, which I didn't know originally. I did know by the time I got to reading it because I went to mark it on Goodreads and saw book 1 of 2. And that's always like, oh no. For me, that's always a bad thing because I don't own the full series. And if you haven't been keeping up, if you're new here, I'm trying to read through my physical TBR, like all the books I have on my shelf that I haven't read. And so I'm trying very hard not to buy more books. And I've done really, really well. In the past year, I've only bought 3 books. Well, I did buy some for school, but that doesn't count. I've only bought 3 books for fun, and I've been gifted a lot of books. That's been a problem. I have so many more unread books now than I did when I started my TBR takedown, just because I've been gifted like 15 books or something. So I'm making progress, but it doesn't feel like I'm making progress. Rabbit trail, that's actually the video I was gonna post, is that I filmed going through my shelves again and counting my physical TBR once again to see how much progress I'd made. And the number of unread books is higher than it was when I did my first video for this challenge or whatever. So I'm not gonna post that video. I'm gonna do something else. It's too embarrassing to try to post that now, so I'm just not going to. I'm gonna do something else. But I think that kind of motivated me to read something else also. I was making such slow progress with my Tom Hanks book, and I felt like I just needed to get a book read. So this one was a really good one to pick. Anyway, okay, back to the review. Like I said, those are my only 2 big complaints, is that the voice was just really, really immature, and the pacing was rushed towards the end. Otherwise, I had a fantastic time. I thought that Magonia was a very interesting world, and I really did like Jason a lot. I liked a couple of the characters a lot. I'm really interested to see more of Dai in the second book, or Day. I keep calling him Dai, I don't know. His name is D-A-I, and in my head that's Dai, but I don't know. But I'm interested to see what we'll see of him in the second book. I'm not going to buy the second book. That's how I got rabbit trailed. I'm not going to buy the second book right now. This is the second unfinished series that I've started reading recently. I also read Girls of Paper and Fire last year, and I don't have the other 2 books in that trilogy, so I'm not going to finish it currently. I do plan to at some point. I liked this enough that I would really like to get my hands on the next book, but it also wrapped up well enough that I don't feel like I have to get the next book. It's a good stopping point for now. I will pick it up eventually, but it's not like a lot of threads were left unanswered and unfinished, and there aren't like a ton of loose ends. It's just kind of like, okay, this is a happy ending, but you know that it can't stay that way. And I'm okay with that. It'll stay that way for a while. It's not like The Daughter of Smoke and Bone, where literally main plot points are not resolved between books, and you have to continue to know what happens. But I think those are really all of my thoughts for Magonia by Maria Headley. I I don't really know what else I want to say about it. I'm making a mental checklist. I got the synopsis, I got the things I didn't like, and then the things I did like was just basically the vibe of the book. Really quick, fun fantasy read. Nothing super, super groundbreaking or like not something I'm gonna super fangirl over and get really, really into. Like the world wasn't quite immersive enough for me to be super excited about it, but it was different enough that I had fun. So those are my thoughts. Well, I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe down below if you're not subscribed, and leave a comment. Have you read Magonia? Have you read the second book? How does that one stand up to the first one? What fantasy type things do you tend to read? But that is officially it for this one. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.